What is up, everyone? Welcome back to a it is Friday show today. Little Colts versus Rams preview. We have actually dropped talk about AD Mitchell's drop and about Xavier Howard because he retired. We're gonna get into that. We are also going to get into the Colts media team a little bit. We're going to get into Alec Pierce's injury, Kenny Moore's injury. He doesn't look like he's coming back. Shaq Leonard has retired. We're going to talk a little bit about Shedeur Sanders. Also, a little bit about Coach Shane Steichen's interview. I watched a couple of those and I took a couple of notes from them. We'll talk about the halftime show a little bit and a couple more. Kentucky we'll cover. The Fever we'll cover. So we'll just go over a whole bunch. I have a whole lot planned for this show, so just strap right on in. Why don't we start with the Kentucky Wildcats today? Why don't we? Also, one quick little side note before we get into anything. Do you like my new little backdrop? I got my jerseys. I got the Kentucky hat. I thought that was pretty cool. Moving right along. Uh, so Kentucky football is just pretty screwed if I'm being honest. It's like it's one of those, I'm a fan of Kentucky basketball. I have been my entire life. It's one of those things where they play Georgia tomorrow at noon. You really want to think they're going to win and be a really big fan of this team, but it's not very good and they need to do something about it. I don't know if it's the coach. I don't know if it's just not giving enough money to that program. I'm really not sure what it is all about. I thought my mic was turned off for a second. But I don't know what it is all about. But I do know that it's not going to get any better the current way that it is. So, Kentucky football, figure it out. I hope we can. There's a chance we get a dub. Um, but I wouldn't hold my breath. I might pass out in the process. Fever lose in a heartbreak game where Kelsey Mitchell went down. Kelsey Mitchell definitely second biggest star on that team, right behind of course Caitlin Clark. And her going down, it really threw the whole entire game off. I know Boston had a big game. I'm trying to look at the stats right now. I can't forget. I want to say some, but I don't want to be wrong. Yeah, Boston had 16 and 11. Kelsey Mitchell still had 15 points. Odyssey Sims had 27 points. She had a great game. Tasha Howard was 16. So they still played well. It's just that Asia Wilson scored 35 and Jackie Young scored 32 for the Aces. So it's hard to overcome. They should get Caitlin Clark back next year, and that would be fun. Little quick thing about the Pacers, really quick. I am a big Pacers fan. I've been going to Pacers games my entire life. I love the Pacers. And they are going to get back Tyrese Halliburton, not this year. I would take a look at this year as we might hit the playoffs. But I also have a crazy prediction that I kind of think that Tyrese might end up, if we get into the playoffs, might end up coming back. His progression is really well on all of his stuff. All of his rehab is going well. Couldn't think of that word for some reason. So yeah, I'm really excited. We have everybody back: TJ, Obi, Benedict Mathurin, trying to not Andrew Nimhart. We don't have Miles Turner back, and I can't say that I'm super duper upset about that. I mean, Miles Turner wasn't bad, but he wasn't great neither. So you don't hate Miles Turner, you don't love him, you're just grateful for the good things he did for the team, and all the respect in the world to Miles. I hope that he does well in Milwaukee. That being said, we still got Pascal. We have Jay Huff now as a new center. So I think the team will still be really good. I just don't know if we can go to the finals again, seventh game of the finals without Tyrese. That will be pretty cool. So let's just start here. Let's just dive in. Let's just go ahead and dive right in to this Colts versus Raiders game. Um, but like before we talk about this must win, let's kind of talk about last week a little bit and the screw ups. I'm trying not to talk about AD Mitchell during these, but I just want to give a quick little rundown here. Um, so the I'm trying not to talk about AD Mitchell. So in week 4, the Colts lost a 27-20 road loss to the Rams. They had the late lead, they had chances, but errors really piled up here. Obviously, AD Mitchell's two things. We're gonna skip over those two turnovers because we talked about those in length in there in the last episode. If you ever watch any of these, I know they don't get tons of views, but if you watch any of these last two episodes, you've heard me talk about AD Mitchell like 5 times. So I'm going to not. I'm gonna skip over those, and we're gonna talk about Daniel Jones had two pretty costly turnovers during this game. Very bad interception. The first one, I'm like, he's back. And then just the defensive lapse, and I think we got rid of one of those problems. Not really rid of. I think one of those problems retired. With X with Xavier Howard. So I think that's probably another thing that needs addressed is our secondary. Other than Mooney Ward, there's some good people, but we still have a pretty glaring hole. Jonathan Edwards might be able to do something with that, but I'm pretty sure he's an undrafted free agent if I'm not mistaken. So the Colts gave up 462 total yards to the Rams. You can't let that happen against the Raiders team with such great playmakers like Geno Smith, Ashton Genty, and their receivers who, for some reason, off the top of my head, I can't remember Jacoby Myers. Um, I'm gonna look those up. I'm curious now. I don't know why. Let's look up. Give me just one moment, guys. I'm sorry. So they lost to the Bears 25-20 in their last game. Geno Smith threw only 117 yards with 3 interceptions and 2 touchdowns. Ashton Genty had 138 yards on 21. Excuse me, carries on 6 yards per carry and a touchdown. Oh, Brock Bowers, I forgot about him. And Jacoby Myers, yeah, those are the two. Brock Bowers had 5 receptions, 446 yards, and at 9.2 average yards per reception. So, um, they do got playmakers. I mean, great ones. And I should have wrote that down. Anyway, um, let's look at some current Daniel Jones stats and kind of where he stands. Let's spend just a moment here talking about Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is off to a strong start statistically through oh, started reading the wrong one. Through 4 games, he has thrown 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So that is pretty good. He has thrown for 272 yards in the first game, 316 the second, 228 in the third, and 262 in the fourth. So, what's the keys to this game? How do we separate ourselves from the last game? Number one is discipline in the red zone. We can get down to the red zone pretty easily. We can get down there and kick a bunch of field goals. Mr. Schrader's great at it. I mean, player of the month, and special teams player of the month. 13, 14. It's great. We love Spencer Schrader. But you like to have touchdowns. If you have touchdowns, you beat the Rams. If you have touchdowns, you beat all these teams who people can't think you cannot beat. If you're at the 1 yard line, ball security is everything. That's basic. If the Colts let fear or fancy play creep in, they'll pay badly. Cut down on turnovers. We had 2 last game. Joe threw 2 interceptions last week. and that flipped the momentum against the Raiders. Giving them an extra possession is dangerous. I mean, especially with defenders like Max Crosby on the field, just kicking ass and taking names. Clean protection and communication. The defensive screw ups, like the 10-man blown coverage, allow the Rams to do way too much. And if the Colts defense isn't good and crisp and on time and all that stuff, the Raiders will 100% exploit. You have to exploit the Raiders' weak spots, okay? The Raiders may be missing their left tackle. He actually is out per the latest report, and that's a vulnerability the Colts can aim at. If they commit to attacking the blind side, keeping the pressure on, they'll they'll succeed. Patience and balance and no hero ball. Daniel Jones doesn't need to play hero ball, and I think you might know that. Mistakes often come from forcing things, like last week. That second interception was like that for sure. The Colts have shown that they can run, they can pass, and they can execute if they stick to the plan. So, do I think the Colts will bounce back? Yes. um, do I think the Colts will win this game? Yes, only if they clean house mentally, if they evaluate the rookie mistakes, like fumbles and penalties and bad reads and all that. They should win this game. I say it's going to be Colts 27-20. Um, so if they don't screw up, okay, just keep the mistakes to a zero. Let's talk a little bit about this upcoming schedule for the Colts. Um, so we play the Raiders, the Cardinals, the Chargers, the Titans, and the Steelers in the next few games. Um, I think we can beat the Raiders. I hope we can. I think we can beat the Cardinals, although they're doing pretty good this year. The Chargers will be a test, a big test, and so will the Cardinals. I cannot lie. They should beat the Titans. Steelers will be a test, but it's going to get tougher from here. The Indianapolis Colts have to understand that just because we beat the Titans, just because we beat all this, doesn't mean or we beat the Why is the team slipping my brain right now? Broncos we beat by 1 point. What is the other team? The Dolphins. Oh my gosh. Anyway, um, yeah. So it's just because you beat those teams that aren't really the greatest does not mean you've really proven yourself, and they know that. They should know that at least. So let's kind of try to talk a little bit about Coach Shane here and this interview that he gave. He said that AD took accountability, got in front of the team, took accountability, which is a great step. AD addressed the entire team, um, and yeah, like it's great, and you can take accountability the way that Shane Steichen said that AD Mitchell did. And I'm sure that he did. I'm not saying he's lying, but like it's AD Mitchell's a little bit Hollywood, a little bit prima donna, a bit, if you will. I mean that's why it is. I mean, anyway, I think he still works hard. I think everyone knows that who's in that Colts facility. I just think that he needs to, when he's out on the field, put it all together. And I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying if he wants to keep his job, that's what he's going to have to do. And I think he knows that. Yeah, so the Fever lost in 5 game series. Although it took 4 Olympic caliber players 5 games and overtime to beat Indiana's bench, but we won't talk about that. All 4 people starting lineup of that team were Olympic players. So yeah, I don't think the Fever did too bad. Great game by both teams there. So Alec Pierce practiced both days. Michael Pittman Jr. on the practice report for some reason the last couple days. Again, today is Friday. Not gotten the full blown injury report yet. So we won't know really exactly yet. But no Kenny, more than likely no practice for him. So it sucks, kind of some of the injuries we have, but we are getting back some very key players, and that's good. Um, yeah, I think that our injuries really haven't been that bad this year compared to some other teams. That doesn't mean that we'd have zero. Um, can I find this practice report real quick? Let me see. Here we are. My bad. So Zaire was a full go, although he did not practice on Wednesday with an ankle. Matt Gonzalez a full go. Taylor Goodson did not practice. He has a groin. Limited practice for Taekwon Lewis. He has an oblique. Kenny Moore did not practice. Again, I don't think he'll play. Alec Pierce is going to probably play. Full go both days. Marco Pittman has been limited. Popped up an injury report on Thursday. Limited. Do not practice for safety Daniel Scott, and do not practice for Grover Stewart. That was a rest though, knee for Daniel Scott. So yeah, uh, injuries kind of piling up, but relatively healthy for the most part. So hopefully we can get Michael Pittman Jr. and he can play. I mean, he plays through everything. Hopefully we can get Alec back, which he's probably going to come back. But yeah. So let's move on here. K Moore needs to come back too. Anyway, let's move on here. Shaq Leonard is going to retire a Colt on the halftime of the game on Sunday, and that is cool. I heard a couple Colts players saying they wish they could be out there. I mean that's really cool. Shaq was a maniac, as they like to call him back in the day. Had one of the greatest moves or greatest few years I've ever seen. It was very cool. Love Shaq Leonard and Darius Leonard, Shaq Leonard. And I really hope that they honor him the proper way because that man, I mean, those 4 or 5 years there were just fucking crazy, man. Man, that dude was a ball punching machine. He did anything he possibly can to get that ball from away from people, and man, no one did that better than him for the Colts for a very, very long time, and it's very sad to see him not playing anymore. But best wishes to him, and I'm very glad that I got to watch him play. So let's talk a little bit about Shador Sanders. He did an entire interview miming. uh, Because here's the thing, Rex Ryan says to him, "We don't need to hear from a third-string quarterback." And so then he does this. The reporter asked the question. So how do you feel about Gabriel? I can't think of Dylan Gabriel um, getting the start. Sure. I had to cover it because I feel like that is hilarious, and it's one of the best one of these of all time. I don't know if it's the best for a serious football player, but it was fucking funny. Um, let's move on to Napisha Coilier's speech about the WNBA and a little bit of what Caitlin Clark had to say about it. Read a little bit of this article from SI.com. Minnesota League forward Napisha Coilier issued a world-shattering statement during Tuesday's Lynx exit interview, where she tore WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert apart on a number of issues ranging from poor communication to lack of accountability on shoddy refereeing and her own lack of personal communication. Engelbert's own lack of personal communication. In the days since, players from WNBA and NBA have flocked to her side. Engelbert herself has responded to the statement, and while not making any outright denial, she says she was disheartened by how Collier had characterized their conversations. One of the players at Basketball World was wanting to bathe, or was with breath. What on Colliers' statement was Indiana Fever star Caitlin Clark. After all, Clark was name dropped specifically by Quiller when the Lynx forward mentioned that Engelbert had once said that Clark should be grateful that the WNBA gave her a platform that she has led to a multitude of endorsement deals. I wanted to cover this for a couple of reasons. Number one, the WNBA is definitely officiated terribly. WNBA commissioner, don't care. It is awfully officiated ever since my biggest ever tweet on Twitter. I'll just show it to you right now. The one that got the most views. It is this one right here that I made on 6/2/24. And I said, I've loved watching the Fever this year, but the W has to get better at these calls. And this is when that one girl just walked up and just completely mollywopped Caitlin Clark for absolutely no reason. So they've been bad at it, and if the commissioner is even bad at communicating with the players, then what are they doing? They gotta fix this stuff, man. Caitlin Clark, all these girls. I'm so glad that Caitlin Clark like backed this and everything. Like, take a stand for yourself. You know, like I'm so glad that she did that. That is very very cool. Um, let's talk just like a tiny bit about the Colts media team. Now, I don't have a bunch of problem with the Colts media team directly. I don't mind them. Okay, Kent Sterling's my favorite, but I don't mind the rest of them. They're all pretty good, but they all act like the Colts are just never make mistakes. And when they do, like AD Mitchell dropping the ball, they wait, or Xavier Howard being terrible, they wait till after the fact to say anything. It's like, I get it. You don't have to go up there and be like, oh, he's terrible, we hate him. Just say he didn't have the best game. He didn't do this the best. You don't gotta dog this man. I don't understand why they do it. But it's probably more than likely just in their job description, you know. Um, but I just think they should be a little more honest, and I kind of get why the coaches don't, because competitive edge and stuff. But why don't the media team? I mean, and there's only like a couple guys who really ask the tough questions. But they're not even tough, and just I mean, I feel like the worst thing they do is can say no. You know, that's the worst thing somebody could do is say no to your question. Like, I'm not answering your question. Like, whatever. Um, so let's talk just a little bit briefly here about the halftime show. I have no problem with old buddy doing the halftime show because of anything like race, any of that. It's just like the NFL is mostly compatible white men who don't speak any Spanish whatsoever, and so he's gonna be up there performing a bunch of Spanish songs that nobody can really sing along to, which is the only reason I think it's weird. Like, just, I mean, just like someone who speaks in English, she sings in English. Doesn't matter who, you could have a million people, but like Bad Bunny, like he doesn't sing in English, or he's not going to be. So like I don't understand it when that's not really your demographic. But I mean, I don't really care. He can do whatever he wants. NFL can do it. That's we're all gonna watch anyway, right? That all being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.